Hello, family members. Hope you're having a good day today. I want today to talk about a YouTube video I saw recently from the Majority Report, and I'll include a link to that in the description. Um, in it, the hostess, Emma, is talking about hurricanes and what's going on with Milton. And towards the end, they start talking about how the federal government and Democrats are kind of failing us on these issues. And they start talking about insurance. And their take on insurance, I think, is, well, they they advocate for some sort of like national insurance plan or some sort of like law that would require that insurance companies cover places that, people are having a hard time getting insurance for their homes. And I'm not sure that's the right answer here. The county that I live in, Volusia County, has a very long coastline. It's a huge county. I don't really live near the coast, so I don't have to worry about storm surge, thank goodness. But a lot of my fellow Volusia County residents do. And coastal erosion has been a huge problem in Volusia. And we've had, houses that had to be condemned. We've had storms come and actually knock down structures and then wash all sorts of horrible pollutants and litter into the sea. And I'm not much of a capitalist. I'm not much of a let the markets decide kind of thing, kind of person. But I've been seeing what's happening here in Florida, and I can't help but think that this insurance issue is kind of the market's trying to take care of this in its own sort of backhanded way. Because what is happening is people are being forced out of places that are expensive to insure and moving to places that are less expensive to insure. And that's what we really need to happen. We need the people who live in these flood-prone areas that are going to just be, constantly under threat of destruction by these repeated storms that we're seeing. We need them to move. We need them to go somewhere else. We need people to not try to continue inhabiting these places. And I know that's a hard thing to say because I know that there are people who absolutely love living on the beach. I actually have family that lives on Cocoa Beach. And I know how reluctant they are to lose that. It's a whole different lifestyle when you can just walk down to the beach and when you wake up in the morning and watch the sunrise. It's just a whole different vibe. And I understand people not wanting to give up that lifestyle. I understand people not wanting to give up their lifestyle of living on our rivers, like the St. Johns River that flows near here. But the thing is, those places are getting flooded more and more frequently. And the beach is getting eroded more and more frequently. And it's just not a viable thing for people to continue to live there. And I've seen it in my own family. I have a great aunt who literally just, the insurance was coming up. And so she decided she moved north. She went to like the Carolinas. And that, in a way, I think is kind of what needs to happen. But what I think the federal government's role needs to be in this is it needs to be giving people places to go. Instead of trying to get people to have insurance to allow them to stay in places that are not viable for long-term residents. Instead of that, why not, focus all of your energy on building the kind of housing that people need in the parts of Florida that aren't as vulnerable to climate change? Because people like to think of Florida as all being like beach or Disney World, maybe, And it's not. There's parts of Florida that has some elevation. We have some hills in Florida. If you look, anytime they show maps of the sea level rise, there's always parts of Florida that are still out of the water. That's where we need to be building housing. We need to help people move from vulnerable areas to less vulnerable areas and give them affordable ways to do that. That would make a huge difference. Like here where I live in the suburbs of Orlando, like the far-flung northern suburbs of Orlando, what you see when you drive around after dark is almost every home has like 3 to 5 cars parked out front. And a lot of them will have garages too, so they could potentially even have more cars inside. The reason for that is a lot of people that live in this area are, multi-generational. They're living with, parents and grandparents or, aunts and uncles. It's usually multi-family groups living in single-family homes. And what that says to me is people who live around me would like to have places where they could live either with or near their family that are more affordable, that are probably in a better place as far as the commute to where their actual jobs are. Because there's not jobs in this town. My town is basically all residential. So almost everybody that lives here is going somewhere else to work. And that probably means they would prefer to live closer. That's good, from an environmental perspective, right? So what I think we need is in urban areas that are already built up, like Orlando, Jacksonville, Gainesville, places like that. Florida, more northern parts of Florida, we need to have the government actually focus on building high capacity housing that, does leave green space, has really good drainage for when we get all these storms and rain, and is ready and able to handle hurricanes. I think probably the best thing they could do is like townhouses or, short apartment buildings. But instead, when you see construction in this area, all you see are like houses that are probably 400 to $500,000 houses, like minimum. They're like little McMansions with like 7 bedrooms or something like that. And it's out of everybody's price range. The people who are my neighbors that live around me can't afford those kind of houses. That's why they live here in more modest housing, right? So building more houses like that isn't going to fix the problem. And we need to have a moratorium on building new properties anywhere that is in flood prone areas, anywhere that's in the evacuation zones right now. We need to have a moratorium on that. There needs to be no more building. We need to stop inhabiting those areas and turn them into conservation areas. It's so beneficial for the barrier islands to not be inhabited, because when that happens and the storms roll in, we have a buffer zone. But unfortunately, the barrier islands on both coasts are often extremely developed because it's, desirable to live near the water and have a beautiful view and be able to walk to the beach and all of that. And I get that. I get that. But that's not practical. It's not feasible. You could have maybe camp zones or something that are near the beach so people can have that experience temporarily every once in a while. But actual long-term residents don't need to be there. Businesses don't need to be there. We need to de-urbanize the flood-prone areas and then urbanize areas that are less flood-prone in a sustainable way. It is extremely important that the wild areas in Florida stay wild, because there's a reason for them being there. Here in my part of Florida, there's a lot of swampland, and it just can't be developed. It's just swamp. And that land needs to be left undeveloped. It needs to be left wild, because it's important for everywhere else in Florida to have those places for the water to go. We're going to have lots and lots and lots and lots of water come through here, just even today. I have no idea how much rain I'm going to see, but it is going to be unbelievable. This is probably going to be one of the worst storms that I've had to weather. And, I was not in any real danger during those previous storms, but it's frightening. It's loud. It's scary. All your pets are on edge. Everyone in the house is on edge, Right now, my biggest fear is I've got a pine tree in the front yard that's died and it needs to be cut back, and we haven't gotten around to doing that yet. And here we have yet another storm coming through. But the high winds didn't take it last one, so if Helene didn't get me, hopefully Milton won't. But, the part of the house where I'm at is at least as far away from the tree as I can get. So that's good. And it's a nice solid house. I'm fairly well situated here. Oh, and this is another thing that I needed to address it was said at the beginning of the video, sort of casually and not dwelt upon, but it's still an important point. Emma encourages everyone to evacuate if they can. And that is not good advice. If you are in a mandatory evacuation zone, evacuate. If you are not, don't. Please don't. Because gas is in short supply. People are packed on the roads. The places to go, hotel rooms are getting booked up in safer places. We need to leave those resources for the people who need them. My mom likes to talk about this a lot. She said, at some point, somebody made a conscious decision that we can't evacuate everyone. The infrastructure is just not there to evacuate everyone in all of Florida or in all of the path of the storm. It's just not there. And so, when that is the case, you have to prioritize those resources going to the people who need them the most, that are most vulnerable. Right now, that is anyone who lives on the water or in places that traditionally flood. I need to stay where I am so that my neighbors on the coast can leave easily. I know that it's hard for people like Emma who aren't in hurricane prone areas to understand these nuances and why they're important. But as I touched on my last video, it's important for people to stop thinking that way. To think, I'm not in a hurricane prone area, and so I don't need to know all these nuances. Because everywhere is a hurricane prone area. If Hurricane Helene can hit North Carolina, way, 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 way inland, it started in Florida and went all the way up to North Carolina. If it can go that far, there's almost nowhere that you could be in the United States and not potentially have to deal with a hurricane. Or, if you're on the West Coast, do they call them hurricanes? I don't know if they call them hurricanes over there, but, storms from the Pacific. You need to know these things. You need to know these things. You need to start educating yourself on these things no matter where you are. You need to understand when and how to evacuate during storms like this. If you live in the South, you need to be learning how to handle blizzards and snows and slippery roads and ice, because people are going to have to be dealing with winter weather that don't normally have to deal with that. This is what global warming is doing. We're getting these more extreme weather events, and we're getting them in places where they didn't happen before. And this is what my entire last video was about, but I probably don't need to rehash it too much, but it's really important for us to break the mindset of, I don't live in a blank prone area, so I don't need to know how to handle blank. We just need to all start paying attention to everything. What to do during wildfires, what to do during drought, what to do during floods, what to do during high wind events, tornadoes, what to do, all of that. We need to be prepared for all of that everywhere, because we cannot take for granted that things that usually only happen in one region are only going to happen in that region. That could happen basically anywhere. We don't know how climate change is going to affect the weather. We just don't. We're flying blind here, and we're trying to do our best, but it is extremely frustrating to have one political party and all of these rich billionaires want to actively sabotage us from reckoning with what we have to deal with. They can just wish it away. But, we have to be practical. I cringe so hard every time I hear someone talk about climate change or global warming in terms of the future. No, honey. We are living in climate change right now. It is happening. It's been happening for decades. And it is time for us to stop thinking about how we can try to maintain the status quo, which is what a national insurance program would be, circling back to where we started, into more forward-thinking policy, more forward-thinking action. And the thing is, we need the government to do it, but we also need, entrepreneurs to do it. I implore you, if you would like to make money, I would recommend building high capacity, nice, but affordable housing in the exurbs of Orlando or Jacksonville. I think that you'd probably get a really good return on your investment there, okay? And we need it on all levels. We need, people who live in those vulnerable areas to make the hard decision to leave, even though it may mean giving up a dream. That's hard. And I feel so compassionate for those people. I mean, the cost to live on the beach means that we're talking about poor little rich people here to a certain extent. But still, people are allowed to live their dreams within reason, right? And I feel sorry for them that they're going to have that forcibly taken from them one way or the other, I think, before they ever are able to make that change. But either the government or the practical realities of insurance or repair costs or, stubbornness that makes you decide to stick out a storm that you shouldn't stick out, and then the decision's made for you, I guess. One way or the other, there's a lot of land in Florida that people live on that they will not be able to live on in the coming years. And we need to reckon with that. And just subsidizing insurance so that people can stay put longer is not a very good solution. Well, family members, I'm getting ready for the big day. And don't know what the internet or power situation will be by. But as I said in my last video, I will try to update my community page and give people an update on how I'm doing, just in case anyone's worried. If you are anywhere that might be affected by the storm, please take care. Pretty much the people are saying on the news, like the weather people and stuff, that if you need to be where you're safe now. Like you need to have literally done it yesterday afternoon. But if you are somewhere that you're not safe, get to a shelter like as soon as you possibly can. And if you go on any of the news websites, there are shelters in every single county. There's pet-friendly shelters. There's special needs shelters. There is something available to you if you are not in a safe place. Get out, go now. You cannot wait another minute. Okay? But if you are in a place that is not under mandatory evacuation, if you are in a fairly safe place, just hunker down, get ready for the wild ride, and I'll see you on the other side of it. Take care, family members. I'll talk to you whenever.